to the Chasing Light podcast, where we talk with photographers and cinematographers about the craft and life creating images. Today's guest is Mitch Dobrowner, an award-winning fine art photographer whose black and white images of storms and landscapes have redefined how we see the natural world. Mitch is best known for his dramatic photographs of supercells, mesocyclones, and vast American landscapes, images that feel at once monumental and deeply intimate. His work has been featured in National Geographic, Time, and the New York Times Magazine, and is held in major collections including the Museum of Fine Arts in Houston and the Philadelphia Museum of Art. Beyond the accolades, Mitch approaches photography as a way to connect us to the raw, living forces of the planet. His storms are not just weather, they're sculptures in motion, reminders of both our fragility and our awe in the face of nature. Mitch, welcome to the Chasing Light podcast, and thank you for coming on here with me. It's been a long time. We haven't seen each other for, it's been probably 20 years or more. So it's really great to see you again and be able to talk to you about your photography and your journey in photography. And so I just want to thank you very much.
Well, thanks for having me.
Sure.
It shows how photography brings us back together again,
Yeah, no, yeah, and your work is spectacular. So
Thank you.
I want to kind of start at the beginning, and when we met, I didn't know that you had already done a ton of photography work, and I didn't know that was something that you were passionate about. So what first pulled you into photography, and how did those early experiences shape the way that you kind of see the world through a camera?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've kind of kept, even during my journeys, I've kept my photography life kind of separate from my professional life, But, I grew up on Long Island in Bethpage, and, growing up, it was mostly, wasn't really about art. It was about cars and motorcycles and drugs and things and stuff like that. I barely made it through high school, and it was went to New York Institute of Technology on a fluke, just because my parents pushed me to do something.
Wow.
My father found an old August rangefinder camera on the Long Island Railroad once, and out of his angst about where my future was going, he gave me the camera, and I went out and I started shooting around Long Island, and I just loved it. I just became addicted to it, and uh, I think I stumbled onto like the images of Ansel Adams and Minor White at that time, and had never seen anything like that before, and just got infused, And my father helped me at the time. We built a darkroom in the basement, and I bought
That's cool.
read all the books, the camera, the print, the negative, the whole thing, and that was my Bible, and that's how I started. And then I how I got from Long Island to California is I started doing a lot of printing and stuff. I just was infused with photography, and took my portfolio into Manhattan, and somehow got an internship with Pete Turner and another guy called Hashi, and a commercial photographer. And it was just freelance internship, not internships, but as a freelance assistant. And things just accelerated. I didn't know what I was really doing, and Canon had seen some of my work. I think when we were doing the shoots when Canon was coming out with their black type cameras, their film cameras, 35 millimeters, and that was one of the shoots we were doing. Hashi is a commercial photographer, and they saw my work and they granted me some money when I was probably 19 years old.
Wow, that's awesome.
And I took that money, and the first ice storm that hit in my early 20s, I think, I just took that money and bolted out to California,
Nice.
And actually, the grant was for either a book or something, but I had a show at the Cannon Gallery on Wilshire Boulevard when the Cannon Gallery was still in MacArthur Park. and it was written up in modern photography. It was just a punk, and there was no, when it was written in, there was only like popular photography and modern photography at the time, and it was actually reviewed there. And then so I started to really become immersed in photography, and then I met my wife, and all that fell apart.
No.
Yeah, it did, So yeah, I mean, the way I met my wife is during an interview with my photography. So I brought my portfolio in, and I thought she was really cute, and I liked it because she didn't have a purse; she had a backpack, and la di da. And then I got involved in all that stuff. That got me
Yeah,
involved.
she's an amazing designer.
Yeah, yeah. So that I dropped photography after that for a while to just the thing
Yeah.
of running a business. We had a really business called California Film, doing
Yep.
image design for the networks and so forth like that. And she had worked for Charles Eames, so our life just became immersed with the business. And then we started popping out kids, and
Sure.
yeah.
So besides Ansel and Minor, were there any, other influences, maybe that even weren't photographers, that, shaped kind of you as a photographer and sort of how you know, wanted or were shooting
Yeah,
images and
I think Pete Turner had a big influence on me.
Mhm.
He told me basically if about experimentation. About if there was a rule, it's there to be broken, and to break the rules, and to make mistakes, and don't follow the path that everybody beats, but have your own vision, your own path. And he was doing things like shooting tungsten film in daylight. He was experimenting
Mm.
in infrared. He showed me, well, C41, reverse color with Ektachrome type films, and he was just all, and that whole thing really made an impact on me in my photography, because it actually also in my life. I was
Mm.
always, even in the daytime industries, I was more like to disrupt things or to break rules and things like that. So that was a huge influence on me. And then music was a whole other influence, on me. The
Yeah.
days of my era of Jimi Hendrix, and Black Sabbath and Cactus and all these bands.
Some of the best music.
Yeah, I actually went to school for uh, sound design. That was what I was doing in New York Institute of
Mm.
Technology. But just like everything else, you never always follow the path that you're on. Even today, I have sons that music makes a big influence in their lives.
Yeah, my son is wants to be a professional drummer, and he's
My
been
son
playing
is
since he's
is
5. So
how old is he?
he's 17, and he's been playing since he's 5. So
Okay, so I
he's
have a
well
son
into the
who's
journey.
my son's now. I think I lost track. I think he's 27, and we converted our garage into a sound studio. My oldest son did that when he was doing music for like SpongeBob at the time,
Oh wow,
and yeah, my son's an amazing drummer. So we should
wow.
talk after
Yeah,
this.
we should get them
Yeah,
together
we
for
have like
sure.
multiple sets of drums and sound guitars, and
Wow,
yeah.
awesome.
So music was also a big influence on me too. The
Yeah,
combination of photography and rock music, specifically in my era. Um,
yeah. So looking back over your journey, was there a moment where you felt things kind of shifted or changed, where your career entered a new chapter? I know that you were doing photography obviously before you did stuff kind of stopped, but was that shift kind of afterwards, or do you think?
yeah. Well, as far as like go back one question to influences, I
Sure.
think my wife was a huge influence on me. She's the
Okay.
other one besides everything else. Just my wife, having a partner that inspires you, and is on the same wavelength as you, like a soulmate. I think that really
Hmm.
has allowed me to just do what I do and to be who I am. Not to not to conform into somebody that I'm not. She never tried to ever conform me, and vice versa. But yeah, I think I was just really shooting for myself, because in the industries that we both worked in,
Hmm.
I had to give up my photography because I was raising a family and doing all this stuff and putting in 80 hours a week at work and things like that. And then, so I didn't shoot for about 20 something years probably. And then I picked up my
Wow.
cameras again. And then I think that the thing that really changed me from just shooting lackadaisically, I would say, into getting more serious was getting published by Lenswork. I think Brooks Jensen.
Mm.
Somebody showed me Lenswork magazine once. You should really show you stuff at Lenswork. I think this was like 2005 or something. And I was like, no, I can't. I mean, only really great, famous photographers are published at those time at Lenswork. So I said, I'll send my stuff in, and and then one day at work, I got a call from Maureen, who's has passed since, Brooks's ex-wife or wife, and it's like, oh, we really like your work. We'd like to publish it. In fact, we're going to put you on the cover. It's like, holy
Wow.
shoot.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and that when that happened, I wasn't expecting that, and I look back at that edition. I think it was published in 2007. That first one. He's published me, I think, 3 or 4 times since. But after that, galleries started calling me. Photography galleries. Things have changed in these days compared to those days. I sound like an old guy now, but
Yeah, no, that's true.
photography galleries was a big deal then. And then all of a sudden I was in, like, I don't know, 10 galleries. I didn't really know what I was doing in the gallery world at that time,
Yeah.
but that was a shift for me, and things became a little bit different. You know, in my mind, that it
And
was always not about selling a print, but it more inspired me that the work was maybe inspiring others.
hmm.
That's all.
And your wife was the one that sort of pushed you to go back and pick up a camera again and
No,
do that. I
not
mean,
not
she was creative, so I thought maybe she would be the
Yeah,
one
she
to.
well, she was always on, like, go 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 go. If I'm like going out for 2 weeks into Canyonlands or something, she was like, go 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 go. She was never
Yeah.
like, what am I gonna? What are you going out for? What am I doing at home?
Right.
She was never
Right.
that. But no, it was also friends, who in those days in the industry that we're in, I was very much into technology. I was a director of technology. I was director of production,
Mhm.
and stuff like that. So I had a lot of access to color sciences and things like that. And the combination of all those things, that my past in photography, the people I was around, my family, my itch coming back for photography, all those things just got me going.
Mhm.
It was like everything was a fuel. So
That's great. So, along that path, is there a shoot that stands out as the most kind of memorable or transformative for you as
yeah,
well during that? I mean, you talked about, the being published, but is there like a time or a shoot that really kind of stood out for you?
well, there's a couple of them. The one that stands out the most always to me was Shiprock. I had
Hmm.
seen pictures of Shiprock before. I always wanted to go there. I had spent a lot of time in southern Utah, a little before that.
Yeah.
A lot of that work was actually in lens work, and then I wanted to go out to Shiprock, so we went out there. I think it was around New Year's time, like Christmas time. So it was, packed up my family and drove 16 hours, I think, out to Farmington, New Mexico. Um, and it was freezing cold. And, I was out there for 10 days. And what happened was, I had this picture. I always have a picture in my mind before I go out of really what I want to capture. For whatever reason, it comes up for me.
Hmm.
It's my kind of inspiration. And I would go out from Farmington to Shiprock, 50 miles, leave in the morning, be out there all day scouting, and come back 50 miles at night. And I think for the first 8 days, um, nothing. I was just like, nothing. I can't see. I don't see that picture. And I think it was like on the eighth day. I was going out and I was just frustrated. I woke up at like 4 in the morning. It was snowing out and sleet. It was
Hmm.
just nasty out. And got in my truck, got a cup of coffee, and started going out. And my mind the whole time was like, "You're an idiot. You should be in bed with your family. It's cozy right now. You're freezing. You're driving 50 miles in the dark. You're not a good photographer. What do you think? Who do you think you are? Who the balls that you have that you think have any kind of an ego?" And so I went out there and to the spot I had scouted, and drove through this dirt mud, and got out, and it was freezing, and put down my tripod, and shiprock was just covered in a cloud. And I stood there for like 3 hours, and then like 2.5, 3 hours later, the cloud started to clear, and that picture that I saw in my mind, it was right in front of me. So what was important for me for that shoot was that if I really felt dedicated to accomplishing something, I could actually accomplish it, and to shut down all the negative things, and just it inspired me to say, if I want to do something, I can actually do it,
Yeah.
and stop being negative about that, about myself, and just go. And it really helped me in my confidence, as far as not just that shoot, but also in life, of things that I want to accomplish. That if I really put my nose down, and it was a dedication, like out there, I don't know how many miles I would have put on, times 10. So I would have put on probably 750 miles going back and forth just to Shiprock for this one picture. Was showed me that I have to be dedicated if I want to accomplish something. Nothing's going to come easy. Nothing good's going to come easy.
Yeah, I mean, in doing this podcast and talking to the different photographers I've talked to, that is the one thing I think that separates average photography with really good photography is people's persistence and patience.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these photographers, they're sitting there like you did for hours, right? And just having to have the patience to be there, enjoy being out in the middle of nowhere, and enjoy and become one with the environment, right, that you're in.
Yeah,
um, and you got an amazing photo, right, with the clouds kind of
yeah.
hanging over the top of it, and everything. It's a beautiful photo.
Well, it also taught me that in the I live in Los Angeles, and I live also in the high desert in California. That when I first go out to shoot, usually I know that all my shoots are long. Like never, it's never getting out of the car by accident. I mean, it might happen once in a while by accident. I get a snapshot that's a good picture, but most of it is, when I first get out there, it's almost like walking. It's almost like I can't see as a photographer. It's almost like being in bright light, and then walking into a pitch black room, and you can't see anything. And over time, my mind, my eyes as a photographer starts to open up, and I'm able to like see in the dark. And I have that. That's the kind of experience I've always had. Where if I go out for like 10 days, my first couple of days, I might be shooting, but I'm wasting my time. I'm just starting to get into this being able to see again, and
Mm.
and usually, that also taught me about that experience of don't rush it. Don't fake it. Don't just really get into this meditative, almost a meditative mode of seeing as a photographer, and really looking at the light, and watching the uh, you know if you're a portrait photographer, and you're taking a pic, Annie Leibovitz type stuff, you take a picture of Jim Morrison or something like that. You want to spend. You don't go and say, "Hey, smile, take a picture, and you're done." You spend a lot of
Right.
time with that person. You get them drunk, or you do whatever you got to do to get them out of character. Sometimes the same thing with photography to me. Whether even if it's a rock, I have to have a relationship with my subject before I feel like I can take a good picture. So that's why a lot of the times that I go out, especially in landscapes, even stones or whatever subject matter is, I need to get in this mode of being able to see, and I can't rush that or fake that, and that's just my experience. It doesn't mean that's everybody's experience. It's just really what my experience is. I am who I am. I can't fake uh,
Sure.
trying to make a good picture. If I make a good picture and I don't have a relationship with that subject, I usually don't even print the picture. I just know it's not real.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you kind of have to see sort of how the light is hitting it and how, the environment is changing and what might be the best time to be here and those types of things too.
And have an
Sometimes
idea
it's,
of really what you're trying to capture.
yeah.
What portrait do you try to capture of that landscape?
Yeah. So your storm photography has kind of this incredible tension, right? It feels both intimate and monumental at the same time. Um, when you're standing in front of like a giant supercell or a mesocyclone, what's going through your mind? Is it adrenaline or fear, awe, or
Uh,
what?
I'd say it's awe.
Yeah.
It's growing up on the East Coast. I mean, this is a long time ago. I grew up on the East Coast, so I'm like
Hmm.
2/3 of my life in California. But
Yeah.
between living in in LA kind of stuff and Long Island, when I first went out, I had never. It was always when I would do my landscapes. If you look at some of the work, I always like go out in the most inclement, worst weather possible because I think it's the most
Dramatic,
variety of
right?
light, the most random things happen, the more exciting it is compared to a boring sunny day. And so I went
Yeah.
out as an experiment my first time to just see what it was like. I'd seen some stuff on television or something like that, and yeah, the first time I went out, I just could not believe what I saw. It was so surreal. The only way I had described it is like standing in front of Godzilla or King Kong for real. It was
Wow.
not. It was not something I had ever experienced or seen before or expected. I mean, the second day I went out, we saw a 50,000 foot or 60,000 foot mesocyclone in Valentine, Nebraska, and
Wow.
just a combination of like standing in front of this amazing storm. I just never seen anything like it. So it just like blew my mind.
Did you
And
get hooked up with somebody who was like a storm
yeah, yeah,
chaser
yeah.
or
I
did,
did my research and actually was invited out with the Discovery Channel
hmm,
when I first was starting the project. I call it a project. It was an experiment, but they said don't come out. It's too much. There's like 25 cars following this guy, and right, it's not going to happen. But talk to this guy Roger Hill, who is like a renowned storm chaser.
hmm,
So I contacted Roger and explained to him who I was and what I was looking for. I was really looking for like giant supercell motherships, like alien type stuff. I always
hmm.
love science fiction. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, he said, let's go out. Let's go out like in July. He explained to me how the jet stream works. Or earlier in the year, it's down in like Texas and starts to move up. In April to May, it starts to move up into Kansas, then up into Nebraska as the year passes, and then by the time you're up into July, June, July, August, it's up into the Dakotas and stuff like that, and jet stream's moving slower, but you get these giant supercells.
Hmm.
So that was it. And yeah, that was my experience, and it just blew my mind. So all I'm trying to do is illustrate some way of what is standing in front of me. That the images aren't in any way manipulated. We can talk about light and how I have modified some of my cameras and stuff like that. But you know, one of the first people were like, yeah, that's composited and all this other stuff. He's manipulating this, and I actually got published in National Geographic. They actually called me and published like 10 pages in just black and white photography of storms. But I had to show them my raw files, my graded TIFF files, and my match prints for them to like stamp it as like not modified,
Yeah.
to publish.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was a
Um,
little ring on my finger because I could tell anybody who was giving me a hard time that it's not modified. It's real.
Right.
That is really what I was standing in front of. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really important. Even for my photography, sure, I do color correction, I
Yeah.
sharpen, I do stuff like that, but I'm not I'm not like putting a new sky in the background or stuff like that. I sure, there's I guess a place for that, but as a photographer just doing it for myself and obviously for you too, like it's the integrity of what you saw at that time and what you experienced, right? And
Yeah, I saw
your
that on your
interpretation
website.
of that.
I read that on your website. You'll hear my
Yeah.
dog barking a little bit. Sorry about
Oh,
that.
it's all good.
You got a dog,
Uh,
but yeah, and you got to remember, I came from a film background, so 4x5s, 8x10s, cold light printers, the whole, I actually worked in sensitometry too in Long Island before,
oh
while
wow.
I was doing that stuff. So manufacturing a film because I didn't want to be intimidated by film. I wanted
Hmm.
to know like everything about film, everything about cameras, take it apart. I just didn't want that intimidation. So I worked in sensitometry for like 2 years. Um,
Wow.
and
Didn't
that
know
helped
that.
me.
What kind of camera do you photograph with now? Or
Right now it's like Canon. I mean, I
yeah,
could upgrade my camera. My cameras are kind of throwaways. Um, my lenses are more like important, but
right.
it's like 50 megapixel Canon I've been shooting with for like the past 5 or 6 years.
Yeah,
There's a lot of other ones that come out that could be more interesting, but the more than like the type of camera I shoot with, it's almost like playing guitar or an instrument or something like that. It's like, um, I had the description like Stevie Vai as a guitarist had always said, like, know every fret, every string, practice, memorize it. So like, with the camera, with the my operation of a camera was, it's an extension of my eye and my hand. It's like if you play really good guitarist, they're not saying I play a Fender Stratocaster and this is how I
right.
so the camera to me is just an extension, and I'm not thinking about it. I've practiced with it so much that I'm not thinking about it when I'm shooting. It's
Yeah,
just
it
an
becomes
extension.
second nature, right?
Yeah,
Just
it's like
kind of
my third eye or something.
yeah. Um, so you've described storms as like living sculptures, and a lot of people, photograph storms, but your work has kind of this sculptural, kind of painterly quality. How do you take that kind of raw chaos of these storms and turn it into this fine art? I mean, it's obviously being there is one thing, but your interpretation of it and how you're uh,
Mm,
positioning yourself and not colorizing, but uh, enhancing your photos. Um, you know
yeah.
how
Well,
you know
I think photography. I think photographing storms is I think made me a better photographer and maybe helped me as a just a human being because
hmm,
I'm just like Angela had said in some of his books. I'm trying to make an image based on all the chaos that's going on. So the first thing with storms is I've seen them. The environment has to be like perfect for a storm to form. Forget about tornadoes and things like that. But the when I first went out photographing storms, I never even knew that Nebraska was next to Wyoming. Well,
right.
Kansas was in there, Nebraska was next to Kansas was next to Colorado. I just never knew these things. I never realized that the way that the environment, the geographical environment in the United States actually worked in what's called Tornado Alley, where the humidity comes up from the Gulf, the winds come up over the Rockies, things start to clash because of the wheat fields and things like that. How you never a storm really forms in an unstable environment. That's why after a big storm, usually the next day it's really nice outside because it's like a vacuum. It turns an unstable environment into a stable environment. So every storm that I was seeing was like I've seen them create. Some get created slowly. They mature slowly. They take a beautiful form. They last for hours, and they go off into the sunset. Other ones that get really super fast, and they're violent, and they're destructive, and So it's almost like to me, it's almost like a human being almost being born. How they born, the DNA has to be correct for a storm to have a certain personality. I've seen storms last for 5 minutes and storms last for 10 hours,
Wow.
and they're all different. So I don't really have to worry about too much plagiarism when I photograph storms.
Yeah.
Maybe AI plagiarism or something, but not
Sure.
the reality of that. So I really see them as these things that I'm trying to give them justice as far as taking a portrait of them while they're alive, because their life cycles are small, and they have a very important purpose. Um, so I feel I just a feel of majesty and respect. That's what I feel when I'm photographing these, and awe of these amazing things that I'm taking a look at. And I guess that just comes through in some photographs. I'm not trying to be a good photographer. I'm not trying to anything. I'm just trying to be me, and this the way I feel is what I'm just trying to express through a photograph. And I'm not even trying to I'm not trying to be a great photographer or anything. I'm just trying to take this picture of this amazing thing that's standing in front of me. And at the end of the day, if a print that I make inspires somebody, that's really, as an artist, that's inspiring to me. That's what
Yeah.
art is all about. We didn't
Yeah.
even
It's
get into
funny.
the thing. Yeah, everything we show on the internet and so forth like that. My whole thing is the print. So prints are
Yeah.
what my final product are. So I'm trying to relay that from the beginning concept all the way through the print.
Yeah. Um, was there ever like a harried situation being in that
I don't get
tornado?
scared. I really don't get scared. And to me, if something happens and something terrible, it's part of the journey. You know.
Yeah.
Um, but we've had situations where instead of us chasing the storm started chasing us. And you don't want to
Yeah.
get hit by these giant hail or flipped by a tornado or anything. But yeah, but we're all safe when we go out. We have just an exit strategy.
Do you think of yourself more as a documentarian, capturing nature as it is, or an interpreter shaping nature into a metaphor?
I have 3 books published. And that was a big deal for me, not because I was egotistical about having books published, but I really wanted to leave something behind, for future generations to
Yeah.
see that we were here, that this is what the world looked like, in this time frame that we were alive, and that was our legacy, and this is how we saw the world, how I saw the world, and that's really what I wanted to do with my photography. That in more the long term, is just leave something behind. So
Yeah.
maybe somebody will know we existed as people at some point. Because we're not going to be here that long. We're on
Right.
this rock spinning through space. We think I had the thing. We think, the house you own or the houses we own, we don't own, and we don't.
No.
We're borrowing it for the time we're here. It's gone. It's going to be decayed in 100 years or whatever.
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
so everything's temporal. It's temporary. Um,
But how does it feel that people have recognized like your work? You're doing this for yourself, and you're trying to leave this sort of documentation and for future generations. But people are responding to it now. You
it feels
know.
good. It feels good, not from an egotistical point, but the
Right.
point of view that, like I said about the shiprock thing, I photography is something I love and like, and I feel like I was able to accomplish that. As far as like I was able to photograph things in a way that maybe inspired some people, and that was all really what's art's about, especially in today's world where art's kind of fallen apart a bit. And people aren't appreciating it like they were in the past, and
Yeah.
that's probably the way it's going to move in the future.
Yeah, I think
Um,
those lines are going to blur, right, with AI and everything. But I think
yeah,
I've been saying this to some other, people, is I think people are going to search out authenticity because everything else, people won't know what the truth is and what's authentic or not. And
yeah,
they're going to want that kind of like you said, like National Geographic wanted to see your original, to make sure they were real. I think people are going to want that, and that's going to become worth something.
Yeah, I agree. Like just like photography, high quality, art books,
Yeah.
there's not going to be many publishers around. I mean, 21st Editions published two of my books. Aperture published a book, um, and they're going away. They're not going to be around. I don't think that much longer. Maybe this one generation. Just like paintings. I mean, just yeah. So things come back around. Just like
Yeah.
analog film is coming back around now because people are getting sick of digital. So things do come back around. So hopefully that cycle does take place at some point, but it might take 10 years. It might take 100. I don't know, not that smart, but yeah. So that thing of, that's why prints are important to me, and again, it's not an egotistical statement, but I got collected by like 6 or 7 museums, so that work made it, and
Which is awesome.
they're inkjet prints. They're high quality inkjet prints. They're on, archival prints, as archival as the silver gelatin print. But also I got published. The thing that was great for me is I got published. 21st Editions did a platinum edition, platinum prints from digital files. Yeah, the books are sick. They're amazing books. In fact, again, not an egotistical statement, but I do have everybody has an ego. But like they all sold out. Aperture books, all the books sold out. Even the last book, the platinum print, sold for, I think it was $16,000 to the Boston Public Library.
Wow!
Which for me, what an honor. So the work made it into some places. They're actually published by the National, what is the Washington D.C. Museum? The National Gallery.
Gallery.
Yeah, so that collection is in the National Gallery too. So the work at least made it into places where they'll be appreciated for maybe generations to come. So
that's amazing. That must make you feel great.
That is actually pretty amazing, and not from that. It's just like wow. I mean, I'm humbled. I go the opposite way. I'm not like, wow, I'm great. It's like, wow, what a peon. How did that happen? And, I appreciate that people appreciate the work. So that's the biggest honor. I mean, I said, art's important. It's intrinsic to civilization, just like music's been, so.
Yeah. It's funny because, in the graphics and visual effects world, as you know, like I always try to tell, especially younger artists, like, who are trying to create art. I'm like, no, you're in the creative services business. Art is when you do something on your own because you want to do that, and nobody's necessarily paying you for that, and you're doing it out of your own passion. And then if somebody notices it and wants to pay you for it or pay for it, fantastic. But that's not your intent of why you're creating this work. Right. So trying to get, obviously artists in our graphics work to understand that, no, somebody here is commissioning you basically for this, so, there's a difference.
Yeah, the thing with like let's say a new artist and things like that is, people, world of Instagram and all that stuff, they're just trying to like be yourself. Figure out how to have your own eye. Don't just be who you are. Whether the work's ugly or it's irrelevant. It's right. It really is irrelevant. It's just be who you are and try to capture the world the way that you see it. And if you can do those things, good things happen. Michael Kenna once told me, I was asking, what am I supposed to do with all this stuff? I'm getting like publishing, give me some advice because I don't know where I'm going, And he's like, just keep on doing what you do. And if you're lucky enough, the photo gods will open up the world to you. You know what I mean? And he was kind of right about that. I never tried to emulate anything. Obviously, my work stands on the shoulders of like an Ansel Adams and things like that because that's where I came from, But it's okay to stand on people's shoulders, to be inspired by people like a Kobe Bryant or whatever, but
Sure.
yeah, you have to do your own thing. Don't try to be who you're not just so you can make money and try to be famous. Screw that. You'll
Right.
end up an unhappy person, a rich, unhappy person.
Yeah.
So I'm a poor,
Um,
happy, no, not a poor, happy person. No, and I have a great life,
yeah.
so.
Um, you might have talked a little bit about this already, but can you walk us through what it actually takes, both logistically and emotionally, to chase and capture the storms that you were doing?
Yeah, I mean, logistically, I mean, it's a lot of traveling. And we've calculated I probably have driven, it has to be over 200,000 miles, chasing
Wow.
storms throughout the United States. And a lot of disappointment, a lot of long miles, a lot of, last time we were out, I was out in June, and I think we went 4,000 miles and 4,000, 5,000 miles. It was a short trip because nothing was in like 5 days. So we're doing like 800 miles a day, which is crazy. Nothing.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Sometimes boom, 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 boom. It just matters where the weather is. The weather might be so there's a lot of preparation as far as like, this is when I want to go out. A lot of disappointment as far as we could see something, we're not going to see something. But it's the excitement of the disappointment was, okay, I'm going to see a great storm. The great part is it's a great road trip. I love
Right.
going through the, Nebraska and Wyoming, and I'm not a big fan of what goes of Texas and Oklahoma, and Kansas can get interesting. I love Nebraska, but as you get north, I love the landscapes. So
Yeah.
those road trips and seeing the little towns and the people and these little funky restaurants, and finding something to eat at a gas station at 11 o'clock at night or something. Driving 300 miles to the nearest hotel. Um, that's the excitement. So that, I
Yeah.
mean, that's that. And then the other part is the light, the preparation of what am I going to be photographed, when I step out of the van, what's in front of me. And the thing of photographing a storm system is compositions are changing every second. The light's constantly changing. It's chaos, whether it's the noise of people panicking or whatever's going on around you. So the idea of, like I was saying, making you a better person, making me a better person as far as photographing storms is to be able to get into that photographic mode of seeing as a photographer, in the meditative mode almost, when chaos is going on all around me, and to be able to just really focus on what am I going to capture and how am I going to capture it, and what's the light like and how am I going to filter it and what's my f-stop and shutter speeds and things, and make sure I don't blow focus, and this
Yeah.
thing's it's not a rock. I'm not going to be able to get back and photograph this thing. So that whole thing, getting into that mode in the midst of not knowing what to expect, and probably a lot of chaos, and it's like, let's get the hell out of here, like now. It's like, one more shot, Roger, one more shot.
Right.
And I'm always the last one in, because I don't care. You get hit by
Yeah.
lightning, I don't care. What a way to die. But yeah, so that part of photographing the storm system and seeing this surreal thing in front of you, it's a great experience for me.
Yeah.
I'll be doing it until I can't do it anymore. Even if I can't, even if I can, even if I don't have a vision, of what I want to capture, I still go out and do this because something random always happens. And it's
Yeah.
really weird because there's been times where it's like, I really want to get a white tornado, and
And it'll
boom,
show up.
it'll show.
Wow. Wow.
How did the hell that happen?
Put it out there for the weather gods.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I wanna, blah 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 blah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I just love the randomness of it too.
And what are you using for capturing your lightning? The
Time
lightning shot.
exposures. A lot of people use like the thing called a trigger, a lightning trigger that sees the
Yeah.
pulse for the light. I don't use that. So for me, life is so complicated. I have kids, grandkids, this, that. I mean, there's so much. Well, Bill, everything that's going on. And photography to me, I have one camera, two lenses, and a beanie so my hair doesn't get in my eyes. So I have to keep my equipment simple, just because I want it to be simple. So my lightning is just luck of the draw. I look for what's electrified part of the storm and see what the light is like and how long can I hold the time exposure without things blurring too much. So it's all mathematics almost at the time. And the way, and also filtering, I use, I've come from a technical background pretty much. So, I actually helped Sony with their next cameras when my first camera was a Sony R1, which was a mirrorless camera back in 2005. And never understood why digital cameras had mirror boxes on them, because, unless it's a second sensor for focus or something, But
Right.
So I always manipulated my cameras to capture full spectrum light, and had created filters to be able to filter based on what the light was like. So screw-on filters that go in front of the lens, so that I can control how I wanted to photograph things based on what the light was like. It was sort of like the camera is a paintbrush to capture light. That was how I always saw it, Yeah. So I always look at the light, and do I want to filter with a IR cut filter, So let's just say, technically speaking, RIC between like 400 and 700 nanometers of light, roughly. That's all RIC. So the camera manufacturers have neutered their cameras to be able to see what RIC, so that the cameras take color pictures that look right. But the sensors can actually see between like 300 nanometers, which are ultraviolet, up to like 1100 nanometers, which is into the infrared. So it's like, don't tell me how to shoot. I want to be able to capture light the way that I see the light, based on the subject matter that I'm shooting and what the light is like at that part of the time of the day, or what is in front of me. So that was my methodology of digital,
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. So, that's another thing that I have to do when I step out. So if you look at some of the work, you'll see some of the work is like cut into the infrared, captures between, I don't know, 800 and 1,000 nanometers of light. Some are just like 400, 700, some are full spectrum. And it's just based on what's in front of me. So I have to make that determination too as I step out. Whether it's
you put like an IR filter on the lens?
Yeah, well, I've always, like, since 2005, I've taken off the infrared cut filter to be able to see full spectrum, and then filter on top of that to screw on the lens. That's how I always saw a digital camera working. And I always saw mirrorless cameras. Now mirrorless cameras are like hot stuff,
Right.
Even though the camera I shoot now with is it has a mirror box in it, but I bought it because I don't look through a viewfinder. I look at the LED, the live view, because I want to see the direct feed off the sensor. I don't want to like see something basic bouncing through mirrors. That's not actually what the sensor's seeing.
Yeah.
And that helps me a lot. So that's what digital has really helped me a lot. So digital photography has helped me a lot with storm photography. Because now I can actually see, and I shoot in a monochrome mode, so that I can actually see in black and white. Even though it's an 8-bit image, I know on shooting raw, I have more fidelity than I'm actually capturing, but I'm seeing at least what I'm capturing and how it's being filtered correctly.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's the technical aspect of it.
And obviously, because you trained yourself, I assume, in this, and you've read all of Ansel's stuff, you're probably more attuned to knowing what middle gray is when you're looking at your scene, and
Yeah, so I created my own zone system.
For.
I have my own digital kind of zone system, and understand how a sensor works when it, how it's hard for it to capture shadows, and why there's always grain and shadows. You shoot to the right, all that, and also transpose that type stuff into how I print. you know.
Mhm.
So I always thought that, for me at least, the art of photography was the original concept in your mind through the final print coming out of the printer. That to me was what my art of photography is. Not everybody does that way, but to me, that's where, the final product, to me, the final, my joy is to actually see that print to come out of the printer as a high quality, let's say museum quality print. I mean, I've probably burned through God knows how much money worth of papers and printers and inks and things and stuff like that, just
Yeah.
doing the R&D to understand, what's going on within the technical aspects of a digital print, compared to just like going to Kinko's and hitting the print button.
Right. Right. Of course.
So, but the whole idea of printing in black and white, and what's the right methodologies to transpose your original vision in camera through the final print.
And what's your favorite paper for you that you're printing with
I've
right now?
always used photo rag. I've gone all over the place. I always come back to Hanomil photo rag. No matter,
Yeah.
I've tried everything, and at the end of the day, I'll go back, and it's like, that's just right.
Yeah.
That's what. So, yeah.
So what's the longest you've ever waited or chased for a single image? Was it that shiprock, or is there another?
Oh, single image.
Yeah.
Well, no, the probably the one that was the hardest one, was Canyonlands, into the maze in Canyonlands.
Hmm.
I went out with an outfitting group, from out of Moab for 10 days, and I've there's various districts in Canyonlands. There's Island in the Sky, there's the Maze, there's the Needles district, and I've gone into Needles a bunch of times and exhausted hiking, gotten lost, almost died on the side of a cliff. On the side of a cliff once, and I have a handheld GPS, and I'm like, it's dark. I just hiked 3.5 miles out, and it's getting dark. I better get back, and start going back. And it's like, why am I hanging off the side of a cliff at at sunset, and it's getting dark? And then some little Girl Scouts skipped by me on the path, and my GPS was off by 15 feet.
Wow.
And so I couldn't get a picture of Needles, that district, that really resonated with me as far as like my experience of that area. So we were out in the Maze, which was just an amazing place. It's actually the last place in the continental US that got mapped because it's so hard to get into. So we went out there, and it was an experience kind of like Shiprock, where it was the last day and I was exhausted. We were camping for 10 days. My hair was like dreadlocks. I hadn't showered in 10 days. I was exhausted. I wanted to go home and hug my mother and just cuddle in a fetal position in bed. I just wanted to get back home, And then the guy I'm with was like, hey, I got one more thing. We're going to go hike tomorrow morning, 4 a.m. We're going to climb up this 1,000-foot, bluff, and we're going to, I got to show you this. And I was like, I ain't going, man. I'm exhausted. I ain't going. And he finally, all right, I'll go. And it got up there, and I would have to show you the picture. That finally, I got up there at sunrise. We left at 4 in the morning, and it was like, oh my gosh, there it is, And
There's
it was like,
photo,
why,
right?
you idiot? Why are you giving up again? Like it again showed me that, like, it hit me that I was like, don't give up. When you give up, it's over. So that was the hardest one, because I had gone out to the Needles district. I think that was the 4th time out there. The one I have not conquered yet is Bisty Badlands. So I've been out there 3 times, and I have not gotten the picture yet.
Interesting.
And I ain't gonna fake it. I probably got really good pictures if somebody saw them, but it's not the one that
It's not what you're envisioning in your head of what you want, right?
Yeah. So there's still a couple of places out there that I want to get out to, if I can physically make it out there. So, yeah.
And of course, not every chase or thing works out. How do you think about failure in that process? Can you share a time it didn't? Yeah, well, you were just talking about it
It's not failure. It's like it just didn't happen. What am I going to do? Am I going to stew in it and get depressed? No, that's a waste of time. It's just, at least I tried. So it's like, oh man, it's just, I wouldn't say it's frustrating, it's more disappointing, but it's like, it is what it is. What are you going to do? I tried. I didn't sit on the couch and say, at least I went out and tried.
And I'm sure experienced a lot of great things while you were out there. So
oh yeah,
you
you
know,
just never know. You never know.
yeah.
I don't know, and that's kind of the excitement about it. I don't know. I'll probably go.
Have you broken down and got yourself a van or something like that, like
To go check. Oh no, I have
to live in?
Oh no. Oh, I would love that. What are you kidding?
I've been trying to tell my wife, but I don't know that I'm going to be able to convince
Oh,
her.
you mean travel the country in a
Yeah, like take a year or whatever.
Oh man,
just try.
We talk about it. I'm starting to age out a little bit. So it's like Wendy. We're
Right.
probably in the last decade of like being able to like when I'm walking around, when I ride a motorcycle every day.
Okay.
I don't ride it even in LA. I can get around fast. The when I can't do that, I hopefully my doctor has the 3 pills she promised me. Because I ain't somebody who's
Right.
gonna like can't do stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll see when that day comes, but hopefully not yet.
Right.
So, but I would love to do that. We have too many commitments, man. I mean, seriously, family. I love my family, so I wouldn't trade my family for anything. I always think, if I was like this single bachelor or something, man, I'd probably have my 2 Lamborghinis, my Ferrari. I have like 7 motorcycles and a house in Beverly Hills. I'd be smoking it. And like, nah, I wouldn't give it up for what I got.
Right.
My wife was like, go. You want to go? Go, 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 go. It's like, no, I ain't leaving,
Yeah.
We have a super active life and
That's
it's
great.
not boring. Yeah. And photography is one of my arts, but motorcycling is also inspires me just like photography does now. So I have something else too,
When you're out riding, do you bring a camera with you? So that's
Nah.
not just your phone. No.
Nah, it's just it's like skydiving every day.
Gotcha.
I just can't. You got to get one if you don't have one. You should get one so we can ride.
Well, I don't know. I've never been. That would be fun.
You know what? It's another one of facing your fear. I was like, man, I used to ride when I was a teenager, in high school.
Yeah.
We had bikes, but it was another one here. It's like, oh man, I don't know. I don't like skiing. I don't like being off my feet and stuff, and I got into the bike and I was like, man, I'm gonna die. And I got in a really bad accident, actually, ejected, somebody ran a stop sign and
yeah.
I was fine. I separated my collarbone, but I was like, I don't think I can do this, and then now I ride every day and I love it. So it was one of those things of like facing a fear that was like, I'm scared about doing this. And then now it's like part of my life and I love it.
That's great. So, I'm sure a level of freedom, right, of being out.
Yeah. So it's kind of like the photography thing.
Yeah.
And I'm going out. I don't know if I'm going to get, it's not a fear, but it's like, I can't, it's hard to explain, but it's a state, it's a state of mind, I guess,
Yeah.
And that state of mind, going back to photography, is such a relaxing, meditative state to be in that even if I don't get a picture, I like being in that place.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things I love, even if I wasn't photographing, but it is being in nature and being out in the middle of nowhere, or it's so relaxing, especially because, I live in Los Angeles like you do. You come from a big city and then you go out to the middle of nowhere and I don't know, I feel this sense of calm and relaxation over me. Right. And
well, you're invited out to Lone Pine. So a little bit about the house.
Awesome.
One of the pictures that inspired me in photography was Winter Storm Sunrise, which is a shot of Lone Pine Peak, and Mount Whitney, and we were going to build something. We were going to build a house out in Ojai, and not knocking Ojai or anything like that. We had land out there and all this stuff, and something in me was like, it's not diverse enough for me. I don't want to, and I don't mean to be in any way sound bigot, like a bigot. If anything, I'm a white bigot. I just don't want to be around only white people all the time. So, why a little bit, you know what I mean? And I always was going out to Alabama Hills. You can edit that part out. You're going out to
No,
Alabama,
it's all good.
going out to Alabama Hills to photograph, and Wendy was like, why don't we go? A friend of mine actually was like, why don't you go out to Lone Pine and take a look, And I went out there, and the house, we found out it's an ICF, it's insulated concrete form house, like we were going to build in Ojai. Almost the exact same blueprints, standing in front of Lone Pine Peak, with only BLM land and DWP land in front of me, and 5 acres in this amazing view of almost exactly like that. I know exactly where Ansel shot that picture. It's about 4 miles away. I know where his tripod was. But I walked up to the house, and I'm like, the lady was there, and I was like, it's done. Take it off the market. This is like fate.
Right.
So when you come, you're invited out.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I would love to come because I love that area down there. The person that introduced me to that area, besides, seeing some of Ansel's stuff, was David Munch. And I would go there with him, and, he has his famous photo of the arch or the hole right in the rock with Whitney. So I spend a good amount of time up the 395. And I love that whole area. It's just amazing.
Yeah. So the house is in the Alabama Hills. So
it's awesome.
Yeah, it's an amazing place. And so that's my place to go to escape, so I'll go out there at least every month and detox from life in the urban areas, and it's and actually photography is the reason that I have that house, so
I appreciate the invite, and I'm definitely going to take you up on that.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great house. You like it. So
yeah, it's really crazy. You're gonna think I'm nuts, but I've lived in California and Los Angeles my entire life, and I had never been to Death Valley, and I finally went to Death Valley this past March, and now I want to go back, every March and everything. It's just there's such a diversity there.
Yeah, it's so nobody realizes how large Death Valley is. It's like, I don't know, a quarter the size of California almost, So yeah,
I saw your pictures of like Trona, the pinnacles and stuff that out there.
Well, Pinnacle's where I practice almost. When I want to go someplace and just the Pinnacles is just such an inspiring place to me. It's just an amazing thing, and so that's what I mean. We're 3 hours from Death Valley, 3 hours from Trona, and we're right in front of Mount Whitney and Lone Pine Peak, and that whole the Eastern Sierra Nevada is just the most. I think that is one of the most beautiful places in the world. One of the most. Eastern Sierra Nevada really has rocked me. So, and I barely, honestly, when I go out there, I don't photograph. I photograph sometimes, and you see a couple of pictures on my website, maybe from the house and stuff like that. But I just love it. It's just like one of those things sometimes when you see a storm, and it's like I just need to experience it. I don't need to document it.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of my experience out in that area, and I mean, just like you, I love being out in the wilds.
It's for my soul. It's for my soul.
But it takes time. You're out there the first day, you're still this chaos in your mind, and it takes a week or two, whatever, to really get into it, into the flow,
Yeah, that's for sure. And remembering how to use my camera, because I'm not out there using it every day. So for me, I need the day just to like, oh yeah, okay, I forgot this function, or this has to be done a particular way. So
that area is hell. I love to wrench on things. So I have a well, I have a septic tanks. My neighbor has donkeys and chickens. I get fresh eggs. One of my friends is the the chief of the Paiutes out there right now, and we have. It's just awesome. It's just an awesome, and it's a diverse culture. So yeah, I think those type of things, and just being inspired by life and stuff. I think that stuff starts to inspire your photography.
Yeah.
Because it changes the way we haven't talked to. We talked about a lot of things, but there was a photographer once to me, the famous photographer when I first started, and he was introduced by one of the gallery people I was with, and he was with his wife, and he was looked at some of my work and was like, he had nothing good to say, and I've always learned, some. He was saying it wasn't constructive criticism; it was criticism,
Right.
and I don't buy that stuff, So,
Right.
and he was saying, well, look at my work from the 1940s, and it looks just like it does like today, and it was by 2005 or something, 2006. And I was looking at him, and I was like, dude, you mean you haven't changed since
You haven't
1940?
grown in any way.
You haven't grown. Your photography hasn't changed. That, and his wife actually kicked me under the table, and I looked at her. Oh shoot! And she smiled at me, And it was like, yeah. So the same with photography. Your experiences in life and stuff like that, I think, starts to influence your. It should influence your work, And then when your work
Yeah.
starts to stagnate, you start to realize that maybe your life is stagnating a little bit, and you need to kick it, or do
Yeah.
something, go out to nature, do something, or take a chance, fail
Do
at
something
something.
different.
Yeah, do something, so that there's right now photography is a little stagnated for me, I don't know exactly. I still love shooting and stuff. I don't know exactly. And my life is in kind of that place now. I'm very busy with my family and this. I go back and forth a lot. It's very much a little bit of a wheel of just a rotation. And then, so I'm waiting for the next thing,
Yeah.
I know it's coming. And when that's coming, I'll know that it's time to go,
Right. And go do.
I'm
go
not
do
gonna
that and pursue that.
I don't fake. I don't want to fake it. I don't want to push it. I'm not gonna try to do something that doesn't feel right.
Yeah. You've said before that kind of the earth is alive and breathing, and do you ever think of your work when either while you're shooting it or afterwards that um there's a bigger conversation about like climate and the environment and our relationship to the planet and those types of things? I mean, or do you think that comes about like afterwards, once you've seen the image and other people have seen the image, that's
Yeah,
it?
I don't try to get so brainy about the whole thing. I just
Yeah.
I want to keep it simple. As far as yeah, I mean, the Earth is a rock moving through space, and we think of it as very different environment because we're here with gravity, and we're feet are on the ground, and we live this life. But this is, you go out the long run, you see all the stars in the universe and all this stuff, and you realize how vast this all is, and how did it all start? How did it all start, and what's your place in it, and stuff like that. So, I just think of myself as very, very small in concert to all the things that are going on, and I don't have so much. People have all these strong opinions about climate change and all that. Yeah, the climate's definitely changing. Whether
Yeah.
it's, I believe it's definitely, a lot of it is accelerating because of mankind, definitely. But even if mankind was not here, it would be changing too, because it has always changed. So it's probably a combination of all those things. I'm definitely an environmentalist, as far as I believe in preserving the environment, and I don't believe in some of the things that destroy the environment. Um, and I can see the changes even that has taken place in weather. Since I've been chasing, what, for 2009 was the first year I went out. So what, 15 years or something like that, 16 years, and I've seen it change. I've seen stuff shift towards the east. I've seen less violent storms up north. I've seen it's wow. I mean, and 15 years isn't even a drop in a bucket. It's nothing as far as time's concerned. So things are shifting, And my opinion's irrelevant.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say your opinion's irrelevant. You're out there, you're seeing these things, and you're documenting them, and that's that's relevant in itself.
Yeah, yeah, it is. That's what that's relevant. Maybe is that.
Yeah.
But as far as like, I don't know. I'm not smart enough. I'm not an environmental scientist. I'd have
Yeah.
a stronger sense of what was going on if I studied those things as an environmental scientist. So my neighbor is going towards environmental science. I'll ask her in about 4 years when she graduates.
Well, how about the storm chasers that you're with? I mean, are they doing that for science? Or are they?
Yeah, so I went out to, geez, Benita, I went out to Argentina with Noah. New York Times sent me out there,
Oh, wow.
because they saw my photography. Went out. So Argentina did not have the science that the United States has as far as Doppler radar and all these models and so forth like that. So I was out there with NASA and NOAA, helping people, the Argentina weather people, with some of their science. It was guys out of, I think they were out of Oklahoma with their mobile Doppler trucks, trying to get models or get data from different environments. And Argentina is very different. The weather comes off the Pacific there and hits like the Andes, and these gigantic storms form. They're completely different from. In fact, if you flush your toilet in South America, it rotates the opposite direction. So storms are rotating in the opposite direction. I wasn't used to all this.
Wow.
But so I was out there asking those questions to them, and the opinions varied. A lot of them were like, they're wrong. What they should be doing is the environment is changing. Instead of spending money complaining and doing all this stuff, they need to really be spending money on the infrastructure of the United States to move people off the coast and stuff like that, because it's shifting over the next 50 years. Mass migrations should probably start to take place, and they should start to build that infrastructure now. It's happening. And that was a lot of the opinions of people, that they really had opinions, but they really didn't know. But what they did know, that things were changing, and that, a lot of the investment should go into infrastructure. And, we have the things too, fires in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, like, do you really think they're going to allow people to rebuild right on the coast for those houses that have? I mean, I just drove by there for the first time a couple weeks ago, and
I was there on my motorcycle a couple of weeks ago. I was blown away, devastated by what I saw.
Yeah, I mean, and you just see these, poles in the water right on, and I think to myself, why would they let people rebuild here? Like,
yeah, I probably for profit, is the only thing that drives a lot of that stuff. I don't know if they'll let them, on the coast there, because there's a lot to do with like septic tanks and things like that they'll have to deal with, you know what I mean? But yeah, that type of stuff. Just wait until a Cat 5 hits Miami. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And just wait, because you can see what's going on now, in the Atlantic, even the Pacific. We got hit by a hurricane. What, 2-3 years ago, we got hit by a hurricane. They wiped out part of Lone Pine with that hurricane in California. So I mean, things are definitely shifting. Yeah. So I think the thing that, to answer that question, that's the opinions that I saw, and a lot of opinions are just like things have always shifted, have always changed, and we're just going through a cycle right now.
Yeah. So we're nearing the end, and I have a couple last questions. One is for photographers who are just starting out and they're trying to find their voice. What do you have any advice you could give them? I mean, you did talk about, just being authentic to yourself, right?
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is just be authentic to yourself and be who you are. What's the thing, people try to be cool, and when you try to be cool, you're not cool. But people that are cool are just cool. They have the cool DNA type stuff, So I think that's the thing with photography too, is like, just be who you are, and just capture the world the way you see it, and don't take only take constructive criticism. Don't listen to anybody who just criticizes you for because of their own shortfalls, and stand on the shoulders of people that inspire you, and
Yeah.
look, be with people that are like-minded, and develop your art. It takes a while to really develop your art. I was just saying, I know how lucky I am. I really
Yeah.
know how lucky I am to be able to um, uh, have some kudos as far as like my art is concerned, and have some books and museum collection, and print sell for a lot of more money than I ever thought was possible. But I'm lucky. I'm
Yeah.
really, 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 really lucky. But I can just say, based on my experience, I just followed my heart and followed my eye and followed the way I see the world. And my influences were Ansel Adams and science, King Kong and Wizard of Oz and science, World of Worlds, and all this science fiction stuff. And I think a lot of that stuff meshes into my photography with a lot of my technical background in technology. I understood the art and or the science of capturing a light on whether it's a sensor or film, and the combination of all those things meshed with me. Inspiration from my wife and my family. It's a big melting pot. But I was able, like, when I shoot for myself, I shoot the way I see the world, and I don't try to fake, like try to take a picture to pay the mortgage or do stuff like that.
Right.
That's
Right.
that's my insight into somebody who might be just starting, is whether it's music or whatever it is, just do you, don't
Yeah.
try to be something else, so.
So what's next for you? I mean, you were talking about you're trying to find what the next thing is, but do you have any thoughts about, is there a project or a subject you're
No, I don't. I
no?
have many thoughts, I'm just waiting for the right one to resonate correctly. I've always wanted to, like, photograph active volcanoes, or
Yeah, I was interviewing Art Wolf, and he had gone to Hawaii to go 1,300 feet in the air. You know, that he had been waiting a long time for that.
there's a lot. Iceland. I've been to Iceland. Iceland's beautiful. There's a
Yeah,
lot
it's
going on. So
amazing.
yeah, I'm probably not going to be able to, because of my commitments. Because you have to be able to, like, be hop a plane when it goes off and stuff like that. Be gone.
Right.
So I don't know. I actually really don't know, but we'll see. I'm not dead yet, so I'm going to wait. Like I said, with everything else, I'm going to wait till something really resonates within me to do stuff like that. Um,
Yeah.
but in the meantime, I still will pick up a camera and photograph something that inspires me. Um, so to answer that question, I'm not sure yet.
Yeah.
We'll see.
First of all, this has been a pleasure to kind of reconnect and hear about your story, and I really appreciate you coming on. And uh, I hope we get to spend some time together and reminisce and also get to go shoot together. That would be fun. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, we'll stay in touch.
Sounds good.
All right, man. Thank you so much. It's been an honor.